Have you ever experienced the moment that changed the way you see the world? For me personally, the moment came when I discovered the power of speaking English. Welcome back to my channel. One thing that I realized after spending 1 year in Sydney, I used to think like this: if I become fluent in English, things that I can do, I can travel by myself, I can book a restaurant, I can have a small talk with anyone, I can make a lot of friends from all around the world. And when I'm in Japan, if I get to ask by a foreign tourist, if they don't know which way to go, I can go like, oh, just go straight and turn right and your destination is on your left. Oh, I really want to do this. I actually used to think like this because these are the things that I can easily come up with as things that I can do with fluent English, you know? But living a life in Australia for 1 year, oh my gosh, I have so many things that I want to tell you. But first of all, I think this is what other people are already like saying a lot in the social media, but I just want to repeat. If you become fluent in English, you can get more information from across the world. So I know a lot of you guys might be thinking pretty much functional advantages of speaking English, but I think there are deeper, more transformative benefits that English can bring into your life. I think this is very important. The thing is that you can get things much faster if you can speak English. It doesn't really matter if you're using English with your business or not. When you search for something, if you can read and write English, you can Google with Japanese and English, right? This is what I used to do when I was in a middle school because I could read and write. I couldn't really speak at a time, but because I was good at taking tests, English test, I could read, I could write. So, you know, I could type any English sentences, whatever I want, and Googled it. And you know, a lot of like articles and website came up and I could understand what they were saying, but I couldn't speak. And it costed me a lot of time to, you know, read everything and understand. But little by little, my listening skill and my speaking skill, they gradually started to improve. And because of that, I'll tell you something. When I do some research at this English level, I don't really type, I don't really read. I just speak, doing different things. If I want to search something, I just like play it on the ChatGPT. Hello, could you tell me something about this and this and this? And then the ChatGPT answers my questions straight away, but I don't really read. I don't read anymore. While I'm doing different tasks, I just listen to what she's saying. Now I want to ask you something different and blah blah blah. And I actually having conversation with AI. That's much faster because you don't have to type. You can just ask her like, do you know this? Can you list up these things, you know, blah blah blah. I just ask her. She just gives me a lot of answers in details and I was just listening to it. Okay, thank you, okay, thank you so much. That's it. You know, multitasking. This is so useful. Yeah, of course, you can do this in Japanese. However, the information that you can get in Japanese is often not up to date. You know what I mean? And the language itself, the AI quality, everything is not the latest version. It's not the latest version. Of course, sometimes if it is really hard for me to explain things in English, I use Japanese instead. And I speak in Japanese. これはどうやってやればいいんですか? But the quality of the AI, the answer, how they answer, it's kind of not as perfect as they do in English. If I do this in Japanese, maybe this is not really a good idea. It's better to type, it's better to read the article. But if I do this in English, it's just perfect. I don't have any trouble with having conversation with AI. So this is the one thing, not only being able to read and write, but if you become fluent in English, if you could understand English by listening, and if you can express what you think, your thoughts, your opinions in speaking, you can cut out a lot of unnecessary time when you read and when you write English. So this is one thing that I realized after acquiring better English skill. This is the things that I feel very beneficial. This is the merit that you can get if you learn English more, if you become more fluent in English. If you write English, if you read English, it takes time. and you can only focus on the things that you're working on. But if you can listen to it, if you can speak English while you're doing different tasks, you can just ask AI, what is this, what is that, blah blah blah, and then the AI would answer, oh, this is this, and this is this, this is a website that you were looking for, and thank you so much. That's it. Done. Fast. Okay? Very fast. You don't even have to wait until the information will be translated into Japanese, you know? I remember that the time there was a one movie that I was desperate to watch. I really wanted to watch the movie. However, that was only available in like specific, like certain countries, and Japan wasn't on the list. That was all in English, and I had to wait until the movie was translated into Japanese. Now I think it's published in Japanese as well, and you know, it's available in Netflix and wherever, but I just lost interest. I don't want to watch it anymore, you know? So there's always a delay. If you only understand Japanese and if you don't know English, it's always delayed, which means you cannot get the up-to-date information. You don't have the access to brand new latest information, because in this modern time to get access to the latest information is crucial. So I think this is one huge benefit, huge advantage that you can get if you become fluent in English. I'm not saying I'm fluent in English. I'm not really saying I'm perfectly fluent in English. I am not. I'm still learning. However, compared to my past version of myself, I became a lot more fluent. Like, you know, the difference of what I can see right now and what I can do with my English is amazing. It's incredible. I just want you to experience exactly the same thing as I'm feeling, as I'm seeing, as I'm experiencing. You can change your perspective, you can change the things that you do, you can change your environment, you can do anything with your English. English is amazing. I just can't tell you enough. And one more thing, start to become darker and darker. I feel like I need more light. What do you think? Are you okay? You're with me? Okay. I'll just keep going like this. I'm sorry about the lighting. I just wanted to make this video more professional, but I feel like I failed. Anyway, one more story that I want to tell you. This is my personal anecdote. Okay, do you know this book, Rich Dad and Poor Dad? Amazing, amazing book. I really loved it. I read this book when I was 20, and this is part of the reason why I started to have my own business. When I was 20, of course I was like thinking, oh, I'll have to do a job hunting. Oh, which company am I interested in? And I searched on the internet which field I want to work for, and I was doing some research on like which career I want to go. This is about personal finance and investing. This book is talking about money, right? And after I read this book, I realized I didn't want it to become an employee. If you read this book, you can understand. I just highly recommend you to read this book, and you know what I mean. You know what I'm aiming at, okay? But anyway, I just read this book in Japanese when I was 20, and that book was written by Robert Kiyosaki, and I knew his name. I remember his name. And while I was in Sydney, I was just scrolling Instagram stories as usual, as always. And sometimes, you know, some advertisement come up to your Instagram stories, you know. And I just found that Robert Kiyosaki is coming to Sydney. It's like, Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the book, my favorite finance book, Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Oh my gosh, he's coming to Sydney. I just jumped to the different link, and then, you know, I was like looking at his website, and it says he's going to give us a lecture in Sydney. And I'm living in Sydney. Oh my gosh, I have to go. I feel like I have to go. So straight after I saw the advertisement, I signed up and then decided to go. It was about like only $80, $80 to $100. It wasn't that expensive, so I could go. On that day of Robert Kiyosaki's like face-to-face lecture, of course, everything was English. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I could understand only 70% of what he was saying, because he was talking about money and finance and business and...
My first company, Toronto Stock Exchange. I raised $27 million, took the thing public. We struck gold in China. Guess what those Chinese did?
It was a bit difficult for me. That was a live lecture, you know. There is no script, there's no visual aid. He was like standing on a stage, and he was talking about tax or like the business or how to expand your business and stuff. He gave us some chance to kind of like get interacted with other attendees. And I asked the person who was sitting right next to me, I asked him like, hi, what brought you here today? Why did you come here? He told me, oh, I work for a company. I work for an IT company. I do some investment. And then he also told me that he doesn't have to work anymore, but purely for his mental health, doing nothing, even though he has plenty of money, doing nothing isn't good for his health. So he says like, that's why I'm working. I don't have to earn much money because I have enough, and that's why I'm doing investment. However, having amazing people around me and working on a project with them, it feels so good. So that's why he's working. Okay, he's not looking for money. He's just like purely enjoying what he's doing. I thought it's amazing. But the things that I want to tell you in this video is not about my experience of like live stream by Robert Kiyosaki. It's not. What I want to tell you here is that if you can understand English, you can get inspired by his real word, not translated, okay? Not translated, his own word. That was incredibly different. When I read books, when I watch some videos, which was translated into my language, which is Japanese, and when I listen to videos, when I read books, when I take a lesson, when I take a lecture in English, he is a famous thinker. He is very, very famous in the business field, and I could understand what he's saying in English, not translated. There's no one in between. He, his word, and me. There's nothing in between. There's no translation. There's no translators in between. I think it's impressive to get better understanding purely from his word, and I got inspired so much. Human voice has a great power. When you read books and when you take a lecture, it makes a lot of difference, Being able to understand English, you can actually get inspired by famous people around the world directly by yourself. That's amazing. I just thought, oh my gosh. Living in Sydney, one of the most famous cities in the world, a lot of famous people visit Sydney quite often, but those kind of things never happen in Japan. I wouldn't say it's never happening in Japan, but there are fewer opportunities, definitely, because if it is in Sydney, expected that a lot of people would come because there's no language barrier. Everyone can understand English. And he's giving a lecture in English. But what if he's going to give us a lecture in Japan? Let's say he's going to give us a lecture all in English. I don't think many people will come because first of all, there's a language barrier. Second of all, they don't really know who he is. He's a worldwide famous person in the business field. But when I ask people in Japan, do you know this book? Do you know this person? Most of the time they say, I'm not sure. I know this book, it's very famous, but I don't know who wrote this. I don't even know who he is. But if I went to Sydney and asked people, do you know him? Do you know this book? They said, oh, of course I know him. He's very famous. Worldwide famous people, they're underrated in Japan because all the time they're speaking English. If we don't know English, we can understand what they're saying. So they never get famous in Japan. However, what they are saying, what they are doing is amazing. I just want you to see what they're doing. They're such an inspirational. I think it's amazing to get to know what the other people are saying in the worldwide, in the global scale, not in the nationwide. So this is the second story that I wanted to share. If you could understand English, if you could speak English, you can get more opportunity to get inspired by worldwide famous people, I would say. Not only Japanese, but people from all around the world. There are so many role models. Every time I take a lesson from those people who's speaking English, I get inspired. Understanding different languages, both your mother tongue and English, actually opened up more opportunities for sure. And I just want you to understand how beneficial it will be. A lot of people say, oh, if I can speak English, I can travel the world without any worries, without any anxiety. I can have a lot of fun out there. Or living in Japan, a lot of foreigners, they get lost, because stations in Tokyo is quite complicated. I feel them so much, like which is the Yamanote line, which is the line to go to Ginza. they often get lost. They often ask Japanese people, excuse me, can you speak English? Do you know how to get there? Blah, blah, blah. And if you can't speak English, if you can't understand what people say, you feel so sorry. You feel guilty. But that's not only that. Being able to speak English is amazing, and not only that, yes, of course you can travel without any anxiety. Yes, of course you can communicate with other people from across the world. Yes, you can make a lot of friends with different background, different countries. That's amazing. But other than that, you can get access to any information around the world. You can get inspired people, not only Japanese people, but people from all around the world. And you would see like, oh my gosh, I can do anything because these people are doing like this. These people like doing like this. Surely you will have an open-minded and you can see the huge world. And then the content that you have in your social media would also change. I have several friends from Sydney. We still keep in touch, and sometimes they send me videos. They send me some videos that they think they're very funny through TikTok channels or Instagram Reels. And when I watch those videos, that's hilarious, very entertaining. We sometimes call and talk about like, how are you? How's your life? How have you been? We talk about our daily life. And hearing what's going on in other countries. For example, my friends is living in Switzerland and my other friends are living in Italy. Every time I have a phone call with them, they often tell me about themselves, their life stories that actually always beyond my expectations. But I think it's normal. It's not normal for them, right? And what they think is normal is not normal for me. So every time we talk, it's full of a new discovery and we laugh a lot. But anyway, knowing English is so useful, amazing. I really hope that this video kind of like inspired you to study English even harder. Learning English is such a long journey, but alongside, you would also understand how amazing it is, how grateful it is to be able to speak English. It would definitely open up more opportunities for you, and it's just great. Such a game changer. My abroad experience last year, that was the best memory I've ever had in my entire life. I just wanted to share with you guys my personal stories and how much I like English. So thank you so much for watching today. I'm sorry for the lighting, it's kind of like very dark, but I'll try to fix it. Maybe I have to buy a new set of lights for this filming or whatever. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. I'll do this in Japanese or English, or let me know what you think about this video. And I'm always happy to answer all the questions of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next video. Bye, love you.